It is such an honor to be here today. Just to quickly introduce myself, I am currently a lecturer in psychology at Sunway University here in Malaysia. I'm also the head of the academic portfolio for Sunway University Online, where I manage the development, delivery, and quality assurance of Sunway's open and distance learning programs. My research work focuses primarily on improving the health and well-being of older adults. My PhD, you can see me recruiting participants in the middle photo here, examined how exposure to poverty across the lifespan influences brain aging and how this translates to cognitive and mental health in later life. And as you will see in this presentation, I am now interested in looking at aging through a creative health lens. Finally, I've been a theater practitioner for about 10 years now, with much of my work focusing on championing minority rights and spotlighting underrepresented stories. So my journey into creative health began quite unintentionally. So as a storyteller, I often drew from my experiences of caring for my late grandmother and more recently my aging parents. And this naturally led me to work with older actors, both as a director and a fellow performer. And over the course of, rehearsals and productions, I began noticing changes in the older adults I worked with, in their cognition, in their emotional well-being, their confidence, and their social connectedness. So as a psychologist, this made me curious, what was happening here, and could theater be used more intentionally to support healthy aging? And around the same time, I had the opportunity to co-lead Theatre Untuk Semua, which translates into English as Theatre for All. So we reimagined traditional theatre practices to make them more accessible and inclusive for persons with disabilities, to enable them to meaningfully participate and access the benefits of creative engagement. And the results that we saw were remarkable. But the real turning point for me came when I visited our partner university in the UK, and I became involved with Lyrics and Lunch, which is a network of singing and lunch groups for people living with dementia and their carers. You can see me in the picture on the right here, blowing bubbles while participants sang songs from their childhood. And seeing the joy and connection and engagement that emerged from something so simple made me realize that creative health was a path that I wanted to pursue more seriously. So since then, I've begun developing several projects in creative health. The first explores how creative arts can be integrated into care homes, particularly in lower resource settings where older adults often have limited opportunities for meaningful and stimulating and socially engaging activities. So a few of the care homes that we actually visited around Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, which is actually, the capital city of Malaysia, and it's supposed to be the most modernized or advanced city of the country. We see many care homes where the older adults are kind of just, sitting around and kind of staring at the ceiling and staring at the walls, and that's kind of what makes up most of their day. And in conversations with the caretakers, one of the biggest challenges for them to actually organize activities is resources, it's money, it's funds. And something like creative arts, as we know, is probably one of the easiest, cheapest ways to really get some meaningful activities going. The second project that I'm working on is focusing on stroke rehabilitation. So, together with stroke researchers and stroke associations, I'm developing a theater-based rehabilitation program that aims to empower communities to support stroke survivors and reduce reliance on centralized healthcare services, which can often have incredibly long waiting times. And in those waiting times, people who need support are falling through the cracks, and recovery becomes much more difficult. And finally, I just like to highlight one of my recent projects that I just completed, where I developed and piloted a participatory theater intervention with undergraduate medical students to enhance sensitivity towards sexual and gender minority communities who often experience quite severe stigma and discrimination within healthcare settings, but especially in conservative countries like Malaysia. So the aim was to explore how theater might contribute to developing more affirming, sensitive, and inclusive healthcare professionals. And it's really coming down to recognizing that improving healthcare requires not only supporting individuals, but also transforming the systems that shape their experiences of care. And we're currently writing up the papers from this study, and we're hoping that it will be published within the next few months.